Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Well, school is out in many areas of the country or will be within the next 2, maybe 3 weeks. Then there's camp for a lot of kids. I remember going to camp and basically it was Elmer's glue and popsicle sticks and boredom.
Yeah.
A little bit of
Yeah.
creativity. It's changed. Wait till you hear what's going on with these kids in Oklahoma. And we're going to check in with the designer builder and the woman behind a lot of this workforce development. And she is Christy Reyes Howell. And she's back with us. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. It is such a good week this week.
This is camp week. So let's tell everybody you have a design business, which we're talking about literally designing and building homes. But then you also have the camp side of you, workforce development. And basically, you're getting these kids in camp ready for the trades, for what you do in the future. Tell us more about it. I think it's so phenomenal.
Absolutely. So about 3 years ago, a group of us got together and felt that there was a younger need, and I say younger, a younger age influence need to the skilled trades labor, workforce development. And we had been putting on an event for high school students, but found that an event for middle school age students, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, it's a week-long hands-on interactive camp for the construction skilled trades. This year, we have 96 campers. 8 of those campers are junior volunteers, which means that those kiddos did a year previous or a couple years previous in the camp, and now they're like mentors. So they get to come back and engage and mentor, but then also they must enjoy it if they're coming back. But basically, 96 campers come to the OSU OKC State Fair, OSU OKC STEM facilities, and we basically show them 5 days AM and PM activities. We feed them lunch, they get snacks, and they learn about HVAC, plumbing, electrical, welding, surveying, paving. What else do we have? Painting. They learn how to make holes in drywall, but they learn how to patch those, and then they paint them.
Wow.
It's so much fun. And I love every week. I'm exhausted at the end of every day because of just all the energy that goes on. But it has been passion projects? Yes.
I want to go deeper into what they're learning, because you've mentioned this before. Prior to the camp starting, now it's in full effect. And so we got drywall, patching, and all of that, painting. When we take a look at some of the other trades like HVAC and some of those things, what are the activities that the kids are directly involved in?
Well, today we have an HVAC company here that is showing them how to put ductwork together. But what they also get to do is put together a full unit. They get to see how an HVAC unit gets connected to its ductwork, and by the end of the whole situation or the whole activity, they see the guts, they see the operation, and then they see what it is. And it's so crazy that we can kind of show these to them in such a short period of time, whereas an installation doesn't happen in just a quick 2 hours of activity. It's 2 weeks sometimes, or 2 days. And with that, this just kind of gets a little, they're literally taking the screws and taking the pieces apart, and the devices apart, and learning the insides, and then putting them back together to some degree. Let's see what else.
Wow.
We have them welding. So they learn how to solder, they learn how to weld. They're so proud of themselves when they get to that weld, and they're showing all the volunteers and the campers. I mean, gosh, there's so many. This year we got to have surveying come to the camp, so they would make stakes, show them how to use machinery. We have heavy equipment, so everything from forklifts to scissor lifts to paving, those huge pieces of equipment that have the big rollers. We have them out here showing them how they work those. It's just we want to present to the youth all the career options that they have within the construction trade. And
Oh,
construction isn't just residential building homes. Construction isn't just building bridges, and it's not just building, hospitals and apartments and stuff. And that's a residential, commercial, and civil. It's more about like knowing how to work on your own home and kind of having that ability to maintain your home and know how to, you use a hammer, a screw, and a nail and a drill all year long if you were to switch artwork on your walls or, want to hang a shelf. Some of the most simplest activities that we want to do to make our houses seem more like us or our spaces seem more like us require the use of construction tools.
it's so phenomenal. This is not popsicle sticks and Elmer's glue.
No,
This is
sir.
like real world applications, and especially middle aged. Younger kids, they have events in my area, touch a truck where you get to go inside the cab of a rig and look at it and all that. And
On floor.
yeah, that's cool. That's good for the younger ones. But the middle school students are right at the edge of what am I going to do in life? What am I feeling? What's my passion? So we get them exposed to this. They can start formulating some of the things that they might be interested in. But to your point, have life skills when you have a home or you need to do something. There are the majority of 20 something year olds now, not to sound old, don't even know how to write a check
Or know how to read a measuring tape.
or know how to use a traditional map, not GPS. Could you imagine? No
Hmm.
cell connection in your middle of nowhere, but you have a
Hmm.
map in the back pocket of a vehicle. How do I read this? I don't even know what this says. Yeah.
I love maps. Like I literally went and bought one of those old school ones in the United States when we did
Hagstrom.
across the country. Bought a map. I wanted a map. I needed paper.
Yep. Oh, and that's the other thing. So much technology. I'm a massive geek. I still write stuff down. It's
Hmm.
their side note, scientifically proven that the mind to the hand connection of writing things down, you retain it longer. It's up in your brain. Right. Yeah. So it's
It's
important.
very impactful. Like it's imprinting more
Imprinting.
so.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Instead of typing, which is good, fast communication, whatever.
Hmm.
How does this work? How do the students find out about this camp? How how does the funding work? Tell us.
Well, we let all of our public schools, let them know, all the public school systems, the districts, the local and the rural areas around us. And so we basically just connect to all communities, mostly through the public schools, but we have a significant amount of homeschools that come to our camp, private schools that send their children. And then what's even more so is parents in the industry, because we want to get our kiddos more enveloped in it, I guess I should say, because most of our kids be like, I don't want to do what mom and dad do, unless they just think mom and dad has a really awesome job, or something, who knows? But
Sure.
sometimes they don't want to do that. And it takes others that influence, that might have some, connection with the kiddo. And so like my kiddo, he's 15. He'll be 15 on Monday. He's been to the camp for the last 3 years. He's a junior volunteer. And just this year, he wanted to be a pilot. He loves STEM. He loves kind of math. But then
Mm.
he says, I think I might want to do electrical work too, Mom. What would you choose, electrical or HVAC? And I said, baby, either one of those are amazing. You choose. And say you get started into electrical and you're like, this isn't my jam. You can switch on over to HVAC. And, you're just going to have some knowledge background in that other portion. So that alone, it took other people, though, that are friends of mine in the industry to kind
Mhm.
of, just to have that connection and have that conversation with him. So the way we connect is, as many, we put a website up. Our website is constructmyfutureok.org. So you can check out the website, and we usually open enrollment August-ish, kind of right at the beginning of the school year, to try to start let people know about it, because we have our dates for the most part. We know when most of the schools will be out of school in our area. And then how we build sponsorship, it's basically sponsorships is how we
Wow.
build our monies to get this. But places like where I'm at today at OSU OKC, they are a fabulous contributor to our event. They've been here every all years that we've ever done it. We've housed the event here every year. And so it gives us great facilities because it's in the STEM engineering building already. But then, a lot of the vendors that come in, they bring their heavy equipment in. Atlas is a local paving company. I mean, I wish I could go through ODOT, our local transportation of Oklahoma. They're a huge contributor.
Wow.
We have Hilti, which is it's a tools brand. They come and they do our lunch activities with our students when they're not doing, the HVAC with the local contractor or the painting with the local contractor. All of those people come and they're corporate and their mom and pop level sponsorships, because it takes all walks of life and dollars to make this event go on. But we also only charge our campers $75 for the camp, where other
Wow.
camps can be a little bit more costly. And our campers go home with toolboxes they make. We have them in a carpentry, and they make these toolboxes out of wood, handles and everything. Then they paint them in our painting situation, in our painter portion. And then they take them home and we fill them with swag. So they get hammers and measuring tapes and flatheads and hex. I mean, all this, just the fun stuff for them to want to go home and, work on their own tools. So they really get a roundabout connection with people, with the industry, with other returning campers have friends from last year's camp. They're like, oh, and so they kind of, make connections. And that's what it's all about. It's like our industry is not just, it's not men only. It was at one point in time. Now it's, our numbers were 9% at one point in time with females in the industry. We're up to about 11. Sometimes they're 13% depending on your area. But we're just finding we have 2 almost full girl crews. I got to sponsor, so one of the crews says CRH has my company on the back, and my son is, so we really try to make it a community-oriented effort. Women that are part of NAWIC, National Association for Women in Construction, they are contributors. Professional women in building. There's just all sorts of people coming out of the woodwork that want to support because they've never heard about it. And so we love the energy. We want to take it nationally. The goal is to find out how we do it on a small scale so we can provide those details, the logistics. This is how you talk to, this is who you get to connect with. This is how you can start the entry level and then grow from there, because you'll begin cultivating partnerships and all these different levels of connection with not just the community, but with the industry.
Oh, phenomenal idea. There's such a challenge in finding people for trades because schools don't teach it. They're just preparing you for college. What if you don't want to go to college? What if you want to be a plumber? You want to be an electrician? It's like we're forgetting about the trades. However, we're always going to need electricians in our lifetime, unless I'm missing something here. We're always going to need plumbers. I don't know if you heard, they got new toilets. No, it's the same toilet. It's always going to be, this is how it works. Same thing with your kitchen sink. It's essentially the same.
Yeah. And that it's the sustainable side of our industry that needs to be more encouraged. A lot of our wallpaper setters here in the Oklahoma City area, there are a few young crews I feel like have joined the industry, but most of them, they're in their 60s and 70s. They're in their retirement ages. And honestly, most of them probably shouldn't be getting up on the ladders up 20 feet in the air. There's a safety situation there too. So, you don't even have to have a certification or a skilled trade to hang wallpaper.
But here's the thing.
Job.
And you know this, I'm preaching to the choir here, but let's, preach to everybody else. Wallpapers were a thing, 30 years ago. They're back.
It's so back.
They're back.
Back with a vengeance, and I love it.
Yeah. It's not your grandmother's wallpaper anymore. There are so many. I saw something yesterday. It was a ceiling. There was wallpaper on the ceiling. However, it wasn't just this busy design. It was a simple stated, the room was white, or a light color, and the wallpaper on the ceiling but it had a wallpaper texture. You actually think it's a textured ceiling. So I'm thinking, how many times that I tried to fix a ceiling that wasn't spackled right. And then, you always get the light up there and sometimes you can see, stuff. Wallpaper, it'd be perfect. Amazing. Yeah. But finding these people.
finding the people. I have a lot of friends, or not a lot of friends, but I have a friend going through and taking wallpaper out right now. And I brought up wallpaper to him. He's like, I'm removing 5 layers of wallpaper because they just throw another layer and another layer, which was cool and nice to do, back in the day. Things change, but that's okay. And it's such a energizing industry. I enjoy it. It always it's an ebb and flow of good and ups and downs, and but you're always learning something new, and that's what I love about it. It's like there's never a dull moment.
I could imagine in the week of camp that you do there, and I'm manifesting that you do it 4 weeks out of the summer, because I think it can be done even in the week. I'm sure that there's more you can even squeeze in, but you don't have enough time. And I have to believe if you wanted to extend it to other weeks, there's so many construction companies, so many trade companies that could get involved. There's so many HVAC companies in a city that, you got one this week now, another one that week. I know that, this is your 3rd year in, but I see it. I see it happening. It's amazing.
It would be cool. We do have requests for an additional, week. But again, we have to make sure that we got the crews, the volunteers, and the quantity of campers too, because if we were to extend, having 96 campers and 20 plus on a wait list, which is amazing, we could have split, there's a way to potentially in the future split that up to 2 camps with 50 campers each, or, 60 campers each. And then it's really, but that's part of the the energy behind our efforts. And we're looking forward. It's a positive, a positive uphill battle, that's for sure.
But many of us don't see the work that goes in behind the scenes. By that, I mean, sure, you need staff to facilitate, volunteers and all of that, but then you need the planning behind it. All right, we nailed the first week. That was a lot of work, getting all the trades, scheduling it out, planning it out, pitching it to them. First they have to understand and learn, then hop on board. Now you'd have to do that times 2 for 2 weeks, times 3 for 3 weeks, connecting with the families, the parents, and all of that. There's a lot involved in this. And oh, by the way, like you said, you have a business and other stuff going on as do other people, right?
Yeah. And that's just life, so let's just produce another, I just feel like, it's the right time to figure out how these efforts are done. And Oklahoma just seems like the heartland of energy to, start it here and take it out, spread the love nationally. And we hear a lot of people when we post about it via social media. We'll say, I think just the other day I saw a post that says, "Oh, we need this in Seattle," and I was like, holler at us. We can absolutely have a solid phone call and a few conference calls and help you figure out how to make that happen, because that's ultimately what we want Construct My Future to be, is an energy that helps our local community and our national organization or industry, to make this a better place for our younger generations.
So you have a design and build company. You do this in terms of inspiring others through the camp.
Mm-hmm.
How did the inspiration start for you when you were younger?
Oh, living in England was a big I was military rat. When I was in England, the 3rd grade, I went on this field trip, and the castles and all the places I got to see and the structures, and it was just so inspiring. I was like, how am I going to do this? I always knew I'd love design. Not to mention, I was always moving my mom's living room around. I was like, "Hey, Mom, I'm going to move this and then move this," and she'd be like, "Oh my God, I wish you would stop." But it made me happy, and she knew that. I'd move my room around a lot. I think one time we moved into a house, and my dad was like, "We got to paint the whole house white," and I was like, "I want to paint my room," and he's like, "All right, fine, you can paint my room. We're gonna go to the grocery store. Mija will be back. Get your room, start painting your room." So they go to the grocery store, come back. I had used an entire 5-gallon bucket of white paint in a small 15 by 15 room, and it was covered from head to toe, and the walls were covered from head to toe. But I got my painting job done.
Seriously, as long as you didn't cover the floor.
Well, that was covered too.
Well, that happens. There's just something about taking ownership of it, like changing your room up. That's your room. You got that space as a kid and you can do whatever you want with it. Kudos to your parents to say, have at it, go ahead.
Yes. Yeah.
Inspirational.
And they really helped cultivate that energy and just told me to, keep my head up, and I'll get to where I want to be as long as I, practice and, make good decisions and ask the questions, and even if I didn't make a solid decision, I learned from that, silly mistake. And whether it was a measuring mistake or an ordering mistake or whatever it was, I was accountable and owned up and fixed it and moved on.
We all learn. I can tell you, let's see, let's have three, 6 years ago, still remember it. I was spackling and it was long story short, it was a sunroom and there had always been siding on the sunroom that they never took off, previous owners. So I took it off, cleaned it all up, and now I'm going to spackle it. I used old spackle, figured I'd just add some water to it.
Mm-hmm.
Waste of time. Never do that. You learn. You don't know until you do it.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's kind of the fun thing about, I'm not learning so much anymore. I'm helping others learn more.
Sure,
So,
sure.
and there's still things that we learn, as a business owner or as new projects come along. Every once in a while I'll get a request and I'll be like, I'm going to need to either rack my brain on something I've either done in the past, or I'm going to have to go look for, and it's not so scary anymore, but it used to be, as a girl and as being younger and just all the different things, not having the certifications. I have a design degree and I have a bachelor's degree, but I don't have certifications as a plumber or an electrician or HVAC contractor. And those guys I really leaned on, or those trades I really leaned on to learn more and give myself confidence. And they're out there. There's lots of contractors out there that want to help you to help them, in essence.
So let's say we manifest, the dream comes true. This, I don't know if you call it a franchise or whatever you want to, well, however you want to phrase it, so we spread it around the country.
Mm-hmm.
What would you need to make that happen? Even if it's, let's say a national sponsor, let's say, Makita wants to get involved and help open up different chapters, areas, what would you need?
I feel like places like, and they're kind of a larger company, but Home Depot's kind of already doing things like this. Lowe's and Home Depot are already doing some things like this on a level where they have little training classes for parents and kids to kind of come in on a Saturday morning.
Yes, and I know what you're talking about, and I've taken my son in, but that's for younger, considerably younger, and not camp, like true summer camp. And they're already starting that, but taking it to levels deeper.
Well, gosh, I mean, and that's such a BHAG question, big, hairy, audacious goal. But I think, it's right now what makes our local small community successful is we have our big corporate sponsorships and we have our small level sponsorships. And because those two are just, really on an energy to make the industry a positive influencing industry and a positive career choice. It's finding, I wish I had that answer. My gosh, you've kind of stumped me on that, but I feel like it's having the community, having, your local, your school districts. We could probably not have done this in our first year if we didn't have our largest school district on board. And then also having our Oklahoma City School District was on board, and then some of our VOTECs. So Metro Tech, which is already a VOTEC where you can go get certifications, Mid-Dell, Francis Tuttle, those were companies that wanted to help us and energize. And so they helped us start Build My Future. So it got us a little bit closer to getting Construct My Future. Sure. So, yeah.
Yeah. And, the schools are the vehicle to get the word out. Because how would the students know? What are you going to do? Facebook, ads on Facebook, whatever it might be. This is connecting with them and they're seeing it first or seeing it with their parents. So now it's got, double approval. I wish they had this when I was younger. I would have enjoyed it so much.
Me too. I love going to camps. Mom and dad were always like, I went to choir camps, band camp, science camp, whatever sort of camp I could find and get to, I was going. Had they had a construction camp? Yeah, I would have been there every year.
So ideas drop out of the sky for me. Something to think about. We're out of time, but I got to, it's here, so I got to say it. Connecting with the Boy Scouts, it's now called Scouting America, and the Girl Scouts. And yes, they do their own camps, but imagine introducing this as part of their camps or an extension of, could be huge. And it's happening all around the country, and it's already kind of a built-in infrastructure.
It's funny you say that, because that's actually the goal, is to be like the Girls or Boy Scouts of America and turn that into Construct My Future.
And you know what? I see it from the other side. The reason I made that suggestion is I'm on the board of the Girl Scouts. So, and I work closely with the Boy Scouts as well in our area. Scouts America or Scouting America. They just changed the name.
Scouting America.
Yeah. From the Boy Scouts. Girl Scouts, still Girl Scouts, still further notice. And how do we find out about what you're doing? I know you have the design and build company, but I'm sure if somebody even wanted to ask about this camp, workforce development, they can find you.
Absolutely. Construct My Future does have a website, constructmyfutureok.org. And so you can check us out there. We've got this year's actually curriculum is up on the website, so you can see what the kids get to do daily. And then we'll have videos and photos and all those things uploading up in here in the upcoming weeks. So you can check out what we did this week. Other than that, you can also reach me, and I'll have connections on my website coming up soon to the websites for both Build My Future and Construct My Future. But you can reach me on my website at crhdb.com or call me at 405-818-5115.
I'm actually afraid to go to the .org site because I'm going to be so jealous of all the stuff that they're doing. It sounds like so much fun. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for what you're doing. I think it's fantastic, and we'll catch up next time.
Thank you. Look forward to seeing you.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.